In this video, we're going to talk about the component for phonological awareness of rhyming. And rhyming is basically when we look at two words that end similarly. So, and it's the ability to recognize the patterns in words and how they end. When it comes to rhyming, it's not necessarily the beginning of the word that we're focusing on, it's the end of the word. And sometimes children have a hard time with that because we do so much work with letter sounds. So, bat starts with B, dog starts with D. We focus so much on the beginning that when we start to learn rhyming, some children have a hard time because they hear just the beginning sounds. So with rhyming, we look at the end, which is called a rhyme, R-I-M-E. So for example, in the word cat and hat, in those two words, they rhyme. And the rhyme at the end of the word is at. So that is the part that obviously rhymes. And sometimes I like to say it's part of a word family. Rhyming a lot of times is word families. When you have look and book, they both end with O-O-K, ook. That's the rhyme. Again, that's R-I-M-E, the rhyme. The letters at the beginning of words that we change to make the word rhyme is called an onset. So in cat and hat, the C and the H are the onsets. And in book and look, the B and the L is the onset. So as we start to play around with rhyming, introduce those words to the children of onset and rhyme. I know in kindergarten we do a lot with that. We'll do different activities where I will take plain dice, and you can buy them actually at the dollar store. They're little foamy dice. And I will write letters on them. And if we're exploring at or an or am for the rhyme part, they'll roll a letter die and say it ends on B. And they're putting it with at. So b, at. What new word did it become when you put the onset and the rhyme together? Or it rolled a C, the child rolls a C and the rhyme is an, an, can. So it's really bringing in that phonological awareness to it. Now that's a strategy that you can use with older children. With younger children, you can do a lot with literacy and looking at books. There are so many books out there that have rhymes. If you think about most Dr. Seuss books, Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, all of those books, Socks and Fox, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, those all have rhyming words in them. Dr. Seuss is famous for having rhymes. And we like to look at, in kindergarten, real words versus what we call Dr. Seuss words, too. So you can create rhymes sometimes that aren't necessarily real words. And it's kind of fun for children to explore that piece too. So we can use literacy. So you have Jeep and a sheep. There's 10 on the sled. And this one, the title doesn't necessarily rhyme, like Jeep and a sheep, but this one has rhyming words. So some of the things that you can do when you're reading with children and introducing this phonological concept is really stressing those words that rhyme. And so while you're reading, you're kind of creating a mini lesson for it too. So for example, and I'm not gonna hold it like you normally would in a book just because of the way that I have the iPad sitting. But on a sunlit night, 'neath a snowy moon, there was one on the sled, then two, but soon, moon and soon. They both end with oon, they rhyme. Keep going. There were 10 on the sled, and the caribou said, slip over, slide over. So they all slid over, and seal spilled out. There were 9 on the sled, and the caribou said and sled, it's snowing, get going. So they all got going, snowing, going. So as you read, you can kind of point it out to the children, and just even this awareness, this strategy of pointing it out and pointing out the fact that they end the same, children will start to pick up on it, and you'll find through books they'll start to be able to point them out. Now, how far you go while you're reading and doing like these mini lessons really just depends on where your children are at. So you need to kind of be observers and see if children are ready. You know, maybe sometimes they're ready for, if you hear a word that rhymes with cat, if you're reading Cat in the Hat, raise your hand. And you kind of have to gear it with the children. It might be at first, if you're working with those 2s and 3s, you're just pointing it out. But those 4s and 5s are really probably really recognizing it. And I mean, by the time they're in kindergarten, this is a skill that we learn at the beginning of the school year. So you definitely can point it out and have the children, you know, become aware of it and have them try to find words that rhyme. Another great strategy and type of literacy that you can use to work on rhyming is nursery rhymes. And nursery rhymes are something that I feel like teachers do not use enough of. And it's kind of becoming a thing of the past, which is really too bad, because nursery rhymes, there's so much in that content in there. So nursery rhymes are another strategy that I would suggest bringing back, as are fun little songs like Down by the Bay. So you can make the rhyming fun with children, and this could be done in whole group. You could do, if it's for older children, maybe they draw and come up with their own rhymes. So if you don't know Down by the Bay, it's down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother would say, have you ever, and the children come up with stuff. So have you ever seen a pig wearing a wig? You know, and so on. And you can stop and go around the circle and have the children come up with silly rhymes. And this is where it's really fun for them to use their creativity and extend off of that learning with rhyming. So Down by the Bay is a really fun one. And the children can even draw like really cool pictures of what a pig would look like wear a wig. Or have you ever seen a mouse in a house? Or you could even be fun, and have you ever seen a house on a mouse? You know, so the children have that kind of free range of creativity with rhyming. So nursery rhymes, Down by the Bay, and really stressing in literacy when you're reading, pointing out those words that rhyme. So those are some different activities and strategies that you can use to make children aware of that phonological piece of rhyming.